The wind rattled against the old wooden shutters as night fell over the manor. In the dim glow of a single candle, Sarah paced the creaking corridor, every shadow seeming to flicker with unseen movement. She clutched the letter she had found earlier, the fragile paper with unsettling words that hinted at secrets long buried. Her heart pounded as she recalled the final line, "Everything you know is a lie." That afternoon, everything had seemed normal. She'd looked over dusty family photographs in the attic, hunting for clues about her missing grandmother. A faded portrait tucked behind an old wardrobe, however, had drawn her attention. The woman in the painting, unmistakably her grandmother, stared back at her, eyes fierce and sad. Under the portrait, carved faintly into the wood frame, were initials E.L. She had always believed her grandmother's name was Evelyn, but the initials didn't match. Confused and shaken, Sarah had opened a locked drawer in the wardrobe. Inside, a leather-bound journal and the letter she now held. The journal's pages were brittle. The handwriting was elegant yet hurried. The first entry described a forbidden relationship, followed by cryptic references to a promise broken and a debt unpaid. Sarah sank onto a dusty trunk beside the wardrobe, reading by the weakening light. Names she vaguely recognized, distant relatives she had never met, appeared again and again, linked by dark, whispered rumors of betrayal. One passage mentioned a child born in secrecy, hidden from the world. The words stopped midway. The ink smeared as though someone had rushed to hide the truth. A shiver ran down her spine. The room felt colder. She glanced at the portrait again. The eyes seemed alive, the sadness deeper. Why had no one ever mentioned this? Why was every photo before her childhood guarded so carefully? And why did this portrait feel like a window to a secret no one dared speak aloud? She folded the letter and the journal away, as if returning them to their hiding place might erase the horror unfolding in her mind. But the unseen presence in the room felt different now, heavier. The walls seemed to whisper. Then, from somewhere outside the corridor, she heard a soft creak, floorboards shifting, footsteps approaching slowly. She froze. Candle in trembling hand, she strained to listen. The footsteps paused just beyond the door. Sarah held her breath. The silence stretched, interminable, punishing. Then the footsteps resumed, moving slowly away. She exhaled, relief flooding in, then freezing cold. She realized she had no idea who was out there, friend or threat. The candle guttered, shadows danced wildly. Sarah rose, heart racing, drawn back to the portrait, into the secrets waiting to unravel. She knew she couldn't ignore what she had found, but before she could decide what to do next, a sudden knock echoed through the mansion. 3 sharp raps. Deliberate. Sarah's hand froze on the door handle. Her pulse thundered. Who or what was waiting outside?
Sarah didn't open the door immediately. Instead, she pressed her back against the wooden panel, trying to calm her unsteady breathing. The knock had been too deliberate, too precise, not the hesitant tap of someone lost in the maze-like manor, nor the hurried banging of someone frightened. Whoever was on the other side wanted her attention. Another knock followed, softer this time, almost polite, but unmistakably insistent. Gathering her courage, Sarah slowly turned the knob. The hinges groaned as the door inched open, revealing the dimly lit hallway. No one stood there. Her throat tightened. She stepped out, the candle trembling in her grip. The corridor stretched endlessly in both directions, lined with ancestral portraits whose faces seemed to follow her movements. "Hello?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rustling of old wallpaper peeling at the edges. No reply. But on the floor, directly in front of her door, lay a small object. A brass key with an ornate bow etched in swirling patterns. She knelt and picked it up. It was cold, unnaturally cold, as if it had been left outside in winter air rather than inside the warm corridor. Turning the key over in her hand, she noticed tiny letters engraved along its side, E.L., the same initials carved in the frame of her grandmother's portrait. A chill swept through her. That couldn't be coincidence. She clutched the key and hurried down the hall to the attic stairs. The wooden steps groaned beneath her weight, as though they disapproved of her presence. When she reached the attic door, her fingers brushed the old lock, rusted, stiff, and clearly untouched for years. But when she inserted the brass key, the mechanism clicked instantly, smooth as if newly oiled. The lock released with a soft metallic sigh. Inside, the attic was darker than before. Dust particles swirled lazily in the faint moonlight slipping through the skylight. The air felt dense, heavy with memories and long hidden truths. She approached the wardrobe where she had found the journal and letter. The doors were slightly ajar now. She was certain she had closed them tightly earlier. Heart hammering, she opened them fully. Inside, the shelves looked rearranged. The journal still lay where she had left it, but beside it rested a folded piece of parchment she had not seen before. Its edges were crisp, unyellowed, new. Someone had placed it there moments ago. With trembling fingers, she unfolded it. A message, written in the same elegant handwriting from the journal, read, "If you want the truth, follow the key. But once you begin, you cannot turn back." A soft breeze whispered through the attic, though there were no open windows. Sarah stepped back, clutching the note as her pulse thundered in her ears. Someone had been there. Recently, someone who knew she was uncovering secrets buried for decades. The candle flickered violently, plunging half the attic into shadow. And then she heard it. A quiet, fragile voice behind her. "Sarah, don't trust the portrait." Sarah spun around, heart pounding, but no one was there. So who had spoken her name? Sarah froze, every muscle tightening as if the air itself had turned to ice around her. The faint whisper of her name still echoed in her ears, impossibly soft yet unmistakably clear. She turned slowly, candle raised, but the attic remained empty. Boxes, dust, shadows. Nothing more. Her breath trembled. Someone is playing with me. Or worse, someone who wasn't entirely living. She tightened her grip on the brass key, grounding herself in something physical, something real. "Who's there?" she called,
her voice cracking slightly. Silence. But then something unexpected caught her eye. A faint imprint in the dust on the floor. Not a footprint, more like the outline of a small hand, as if a child had pressed it lightly against the wooden planks. Sarah knelt, examining the delicate shape. It couldn't have been there before. She had walked through this exact spot earlier. Her pulse quickened. She rose and turned back to the wardrobe. The new parchment note sat where she had dropped it, fluttering slightly despite the still air. She tucked it into her pocket and scanned the shelves again. Behind a loose panel, she noticed something she hadn't seen. A hidden compartment carved directly into the wood. With shaking hands, she pushed the panel aside. Inside was a single object, a locket on a tarnished silver chain. Its surface was intricately engraved, matching the swirling patterns of the brass key. She clicked it open. Inside were 2 miniature portraits. One was her grandmother, younger, smiling in a way she had never seen in photographs. The other was a man with sharp features and deep-set eyes. He looked unfamiliar, yet there was something unsettlingly familiar in the shape of his jaw, the tilt of his head, something that made her skin prickle. On the back of the locket's clasp, etched in tiny, precise lettering, were 3 words: "He never left." Her mind raced. Sarah felt the attic tilt slightly under her feet. Her grandmother had always spoken of a great love she lost in youth, a man who disappeared mysteriously, but no one ever mentioned who he was. Sarah had assumed it was a story, softened by age. Now, looking at the locket, she wasn't so sure. She lowered it, turning to leave, but the wardrobe door slammed shut with a violent bang behind her. She gasped, stumbling backward, nearly dropping the candle. The sound reverberated around the attic, shaking old beams and rattling loose boards. A rush of cold air swept past her face, and a whisper, softer than breath, but sharp as a blade, filled the space around her. "Find the room he died in." The candle's flame shrank to a thin blue thread. Sarah stumbled towards the attic stairs, gripping the railing to steady herself, but her mind was racing. Someone died in this house, and the house hasn't forgotten. As she descended the steps, heart hammering, she felt the manor shift, as if the very walls were listening. Halfway down the stairs, Sarah noticed something horrifying. A trail of fresh, wet footprints leading down the hallway below, and they weren't hers. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The footprints glistened faintly in the dim hallway light, small, bare, and unmistakably wet, as though someone had just stepped out of water. They led away from the attic stairs and disappeared around the corner toward the east wing of the manor. The east wing. Her grandmother had always kept that part of the house locked. It was the only place Sarah had never been allowed to explore as a child. She remembered being told it was unsafe due to unstable flooring. But now, that excuse felt like another piece of a much larger lie. Still gripping the candle, she followed the footprints. Each step made the wood beneath her creak and protest. The manor felt alive, watching, waiting. The hallway seemed longer than she remembered, stretching endlessly, its air thick with anticipation. As she neared the locked double doors of the east wing, she noticed the brass doorknob glimmering faintly under the candlelight. Someone had recently touched it. The key in her hand suddenly felt heavier, almost warm. She hesitated,
heart pounding, then slid the brass key into the lock. It turned smoothly. The doors swung open with a deep groan. Inside, the eastern quarter was colder, dimmer, cloaked in shadows that clung to the walls like lingering memories. The scent of damp stone filled her nose. The footprints continued until they reached a single narrow door at the end of the hallway, a door she had never seen before. This door was different, older, weathered, marked with scratches and faint streaks of something that looked disturbingly like dried mud or dried blood. She reached for the handle, but before she touched it, the candle flickered violently, nearly extinguishing. A chilling breeze swept under the door, carrying with it the faintest sound, a soft, trembling breath. Someone, or something, was on the other side. Gathering her courage, she pushed the door open. The room inside was small and windowless, illuminated only by the weak light of her candle. The walls were peeling wallpaper, revealing dark wood beneath. At the center of the room stood a single wooden chair and a rope that hung from the ceiling, its frayed end swaying gently as if recently disturbed. Her pulse quickened. This didn't feel like a room meant for the living. On the floor beneath the rope was a water-stained journal tied with cord. She knelt and opened it. The handwriting was frantic, scribbled in rushed strokes. He never left the house. He knows. Forgive me. I tried to hide the truth. He died here. The last entry was smeared, as if written by trembling hands. If anyone finds this, do not let him out. Sarah's grip tightened on the journal. She raised her eyes and froze. In the corner of the room, half hidden in shadow, stood a figure. Tall, still, watching her with hollow, mournful eyes that glowed faintly in the candlelight. Her blood ran cold. It was the man from the locket. The door slammed shut behind her, and Sarah realized she was no longer alone in the room with the dead.
The moment the door slammed behind her, Sarah's breath seized in her lungs. The candle's flame quivered violently, barely illuminating the shadowed figure in the corner. He did not move, but the air around him pulsed like something caught between two worlds, tethered by unfinished agony. Sarah forced herself to stand, heart pounding so hard she felt it shake her ribs. Who are you?" she whispered, though she already knew. The locket's portrait, the journal's warnings, her grandmother's secrets, everything pointed to him. The man stepped forward, not with footsteps, but with a drifting motion, as if gravity no longer applied. His outline flickered between solid and transparent, his expression twisted with sorrow rather than rage. When he spoke, his voice echoed like layered whispers trapped in old stone. "You shouldn't have come." Sarah stumbled backward until her back hit the wall. The candle sputtered dangerously. "What happened to you?" she forced out. "Why are you here?" His hollow gaze softened, and for a brief moment,
Sarah saw grief, not malice. "She tried to save me," he murmured, "but the house, it remembers pain." Her throat tightened. "Save you? From what?" He lifted an arm and pointed to the rope hanging from the ceiling. The sight made her stomach twist. "They said I took my own life, but they lied. I was silenced, hidden, forgotten." And she, his voice wavered, "Your grandmother tried to protect the truth, but the house took her too." A cold tremor ran through Sarah. Then the whispers, the footprints, the rooms changing. "It's the memories," he said. "This place keeps them alive. It won't forget. And now that you've opened the door, it won't let you forget either." The candle's flame suddenly elongated, casting monstrous shadows across the walls. The wooden beams groaned, the floorboards vibrating under her feet. The house was waking up. Sarah clutched the brass key, the only thing that had answered her touch. "Tell me how to stop this," she pleaded. "Please." The man extended his hand toward her. Though translucent, it warmed the air around it. "You must lock it away again, before the house decides you belong to it." She swallowed hard. She understood. The key that had opened the door could close it, but she had to act fast. The floor shuddered violently. A deep, resonant moan rose from the walls, as though the manor itself were breathing. The shadows stretched, reaching for her ankles like black vines. Sarah sprinted for the door. The ghost moved to block the shadows, his form flickering as the house resisted him. "Go," he urged. "Lock it, and don't look back." She shoved the key into the lock from inside, twisting with all her strength. The house roared, a guttural, enraged sound, as the mechanism clicked shut. The shadows recoiled violently, and the ghost's outline began dissolving into drifting particles of light. "Thank you," he whispered, fading. "You've set us free." The room brightened. The suffocating weight lifted. Sarah sank to her knees, tears spilling freely. When she finally rose and opened the door, the hallway beyond was calm, silent, as though the manor had fallen into a deep sleep. She stepped out, clutching the locket. The manor no longer felt hostile, only lonely. Outside, dawn's first light glowed through the windows. But as she descended the staircase, thinking it was finally over, she heard a faint rustling behind her, the sound of paper sliding across wood. She turned. On the landing lay a new parchment note. "The house is never done." As Sarah picked up the note, the floor beneath her gave a subtle, deliberate creak, as if something deep inside the manor had just awakened again.